with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get into these bowl games. Now, like I said before, these are going to be the bowl games that don't have any impact on the college football playoffs, right? Now, it should also be noted that there are a lot of bowl games. I'm just going to say that right now. There are a lot of bowl games. However, not all of them are really like all that, I should say. Like there's going to be some bowl games that are like going to be fantastic competition, but there's not going to be really that many that I think are going to be like, wow, that's amazing, right? And let me just look at these real quick. And all of the college games that are like in the football playoffs, I thought that they would be counted as bowl games, but they're all not. I mean, they don't have any sort of name on them, and not only that, they're also going to be played. There's actually going to be home field advantage in the postseason for college football, which is unprecedented. Like usually these big games and these playoff games, they're held on a neutral site. Not this one though. Not these games. And I believe that the future games, I think they're going to be called bowl games. I'm not entirely sure because again, this is a whole new thing and something that I never really learned because again, it was a whole new thing that was introduced into the NCAA season literally just last year. I mean, most of the time, at least from what I remember it in college football, every single playoff game was a bowl game, and even the college playoffs at the time when there was just a 4-team bracket, those were bowl games as well. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I'll figure that out, and I'll go ahead and I'll address that when the college football playoffs actually start. So for one, well, let's dive right into this. Now, this is going to be pretty long because there are a lot of bowl games. So the Army Navy game, probably one of the most famous bowl games in the entirety of the NCAA. I actually went to the Army Navy Bowl when they were at MetLife because that was the closest one to home. Great experience. I highly recommend going to these Army Navy games. Now, while the offense isn't really that explosive, it's a very fun game. And these two teams, they're going to be incredibly run heavy. I expect that. But in this one, I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go with the Navy. I'm going to go with the Naval Academy. Why? Every single time I've gone with the Naval Academy. The game that I went to, I was rooting for the Naval Academy, and while they had a much worse record than the Army, they somehow ended up winning. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going with the Naval Academy on this one. Now, this might be a big upset because the Army is ranked 22nd. The Navy was ranked at one point as well, but ultimately when they lost, they ended up dropping in the rankings because of course. But I'm going to go with the Navy. I'm going to stick with my pick, and I'm going to go with the Navy on this one. Next, South Alabama going up against Western Michigan. Now, this is the Veterans Bowl. I'm going to go ahead and pick South Alabama for this one. I don't know. It's just something about Alabama teams. They're not like the real Alabama, but still. Next, Memphis is going up against West Virginia on Tuesday, December 17th. And let's see. So Memphis is ranked number 25th. They have a 10-2 record compared to West Virginia, who is ranked 6-6. So I'm going to go with Memphis in the Frisco Bowl. Next is the Boca Raton Bowl with Western Kentucky and James Madison. Now, JMU, I don't know why. I really like the quarterback on JMU. I feel like the quarterback is a much better quarterback than the one on Western Kentucky. So I'm going to go stick with JMU just because I think quarterback play is going to be very important. And being able to handle the pressure in these bowl games is also going to be very important. Next, in the LA Bowl, California and the University of Las Vegas. They're going to go ahead and match up against each other. I'm going to go and pick UNLV. They are ranked 24th, and they also have a 10-3 record compared to California, who has a 6-6 record. And not only that, their quarterback, while I will say isn't really all that good, did not play the entirety of the season. Like, his stats aren't really that good. Let me rephrase that. His stats aren't really that good, but that's mainly because their main quarterback ended up quitting on them during the middle of the season, which was a really bold move and a very mean move, honestly. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that, but again, if you don't really pay the guy, then you're just allowing that to happen. Next is the New Orleans Bowl with GSMC and Sam Houston State. Now, these two teams are very, very good, but again, the big difference here is their quarterback. I think GSMC is going to have a much better chance to beat Sam Houston State, and I think the quarterback is going to make a couple less mistakes in this one. Next is Ohio going up against Jacksonville State in the Cure Bowl, and I'm going to go with Timothy Chalamet with this, and I'm going to go ahead and pick Ohio because he saw a lot of good things with Ohio. And this isn't Ohio State, by the way. This is the other Ohio, the one with the Ohio Bobcats. So I'm going to go with Ohio on this one. Next is the Jasperilla Bowl, or Jasperilla Bowl. Forgive me if I messed it up. I have no idea how it's pronounced. And this matchup is going to be between Tulane and Florida. Now, the Gators, Florida. There's a lot of Florida teams, so I just wanted to make it clear that it was the Gators that were going up against them. Now, the Gators, they're an SEC team compared to Tulane, which is an AAC team. So not only that, but Florida, they've also been able to get some rather impressive wins in the regular season. I mean, they did end up losing to Georgia, which is a little bit much, and I completely understand that. And they almost ended up they made it a challenge for Florida, but no, the University of Miami, but they ended up losing to Miami. And I don't know, they did beat Ole Miss earlier, which was the big game that I was referring to. And they also ended up beating the LSU Tigers. Now, Ole Miss was ranked at the time that they ended up beating them. So I think the Gators are they got the momentum, and they're going to be able to win in this game, especially being an SEC team. I mean, we all know that SEC teams they seem to play much better football than the rest of the competition. Now, the other bowl games, again, I'm not covering the ones in the college football playoffs. The Myrtle Beach Bowl, Carolina is going up against UTSA, and I think UTSA is going to have a better chance in winning this one. Both of these teams are mid-tier. They both have a 6-6 record, but their quarterback, McCown, forgive me if I messed up that last name, he's phenomenal. He is a great college athlete. I mean, his stats, 3,168 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. They're far better than the quarterback on the other team, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with this one, with UTSA in this bowl. Next is the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, a very funny name. Fresno State is going up against Northern Illinois, and in this matchup, I'm actually going to go for the upset and pick Fresno State because, you always got to have some upsets here and there in these college bowls. Next is the Hawaii Bowl between South Florida and San Jose State. And again, another matchup with rather mid-tier teams, but I'm going to go ahead and pick San Jose State in this one. Next is Pittsburgh going up against Toledo in the Game Above Sports Bowl. And I don't know, there's something about Pittsburgh that I really like. Maybe it's because they have a friend of mine who is actually playing wide receiver on the team, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in this one. I feel like they're going to be well prepped for this one. Next is the Rate Bowl between Rutgers and Kansas State. Now, I'm a big fan of Rutgers, Jersey, represent, and I'm going to go ahead and pick Rutgers, not just because, not just because there's a bias, but because they've been Surprisingly, now I will say they've had some really disappointing losses in this season, but they've played surprisingly well in a majority of the games. And they did go on a little bit of a losing streak, but they did start out the season with, I believe, a 4-0 record. So very, very impressive stuff coming in from Rutgers. And I know Kansas State, they get ranked most of the time. They've been getting ranked most of the time, especially after that ridiculous college performance in the first round of the college football playoffs when it was just a 14 format. But I think Rutgers is going to make a name for themselves in this one. Next is the 68 Ventures Bowl. Arkansas State is going up against Bowling Green. I'm going to have to speed through a lot of this. I'm going to go ahead and pick Arkansas State. Next is Oklahoma against the Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Naval Academy in this one. Next is the Birmingham Bowl between Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. Now, Georgia Tech, I will say that they did upset the University of Miami. Vanderbilt, they upset the University of Alabama. I'm going to go and pick Georgia Tech in this one. I'm just going to do that because their win against the University of Miami was more recent than Vanderbilt's win against Alabama. Then in the Liberty Bowl, Texas Tech is going up against Arkansas. I'm going to go and pick Texas Tech. Holiday Bowl, Syracuse is going up against Washington State. I'm going to go and pick Syracuse. Next, in the Las Vegas Bowl, the Aggies are going to go up against USC. Actually, no, Texas A&M. Excuse me. Whoa, wrong Texas team. Ugh. They're going up against USC. I'm going to go ahead and pick Texas A&M. Next is the Fenway Bowl, Connecticut going up against UConn, going up against North Carolina. I'm going to go on a whim, and I'm going to pick North Carolina in this one. UConn, they do have a much better record, but they also play in a much weaker conference. Boston College going up against Nebraska in the Pinstripe Bowl. I really like Boston College, so I'm going to go ahead and pick Boston College in this one. New Mexico Bowl between TCU and Louisiana. I'm going to go ahead and pick TCU in this matchup, and I accidentally scrolled up all the way for all these bowl games. That is no good. Next is Iowa State going up against Miami, Florida. The first bowl game between two ranked teams. They're going to play against each other in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I'm going to go ahead and pick my University of Miami. I love Cam Ward, future quarterback of the Giants, I hope. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the University of Miami in this one. Again, please be a Giant. Next, Miami is going up against Colorado State. Not the University of Miami, Miami OH. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Miami in this one. East Carolina going up against North Carolina State in the Military Bowl. And I'm going to go ahead and pick North Carolina State in this one. And then the other ranked bowl game, Alamo Bowl between BYU and Colorado. I'm going to go ahead and pick Colorado. Similar to the University of Miami, Shedeur Sanders most likely is going to have a big chance of winning or being the future quarterback of the New York Giants. Again, it really depends on how it goes and how the draft works. But I really like Colorado. I like their offense led by Shedeur. I also like Travis Hunter and the fact that he's able to play defense as elite as he can. BYU, while I will say they did have a fantastic season, they did suffer some disappointing losses. Next is Marshall going up against the Army. And in the Independence Bowl, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Army in this one. And then the final bowl game that I actually have time to go over is the Alabama against Michigan bowl game. They play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pick Alabama for this one because, they're Alabama. And I will say, I do know that Michigan, they did come off of a very huge win in the final game against Ohio State, so they've proven that they can beat a top-ranked team. But I think that's really just Ohio State choking. I feel like that game was more of an Ohio State choke and Michigan capitalizing on that. I don't think Alabama is going to choke in this one, even though they've had some really, really big stinker moments in the regular season. I will say that. And, Jalen Milroe, he's a great quarterback, and I'm surprised he's not really, talked about a little bit more. But again, his passing stats, his touchdown to interception ratio isn't all that great. But that's a different story. So that's all that I have. That's not all the bowl games, obviously, but those are the only bowl games where I really had time to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a break, and then afterwards we're going to quickly recap all of the games in the NBA that took place over the weekend because I was unable to do that the other day. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.